Let's go, man. Episode 51 of this show that a year ago, almost to the day, we said, let's give it a shot. And guess what, man? Here we are, coming up on an anniversary, man. Stuck to it, committed. Both of us, bro, have overcame so much during this year and still found a way to stay loyal to the goal.
Yeah.
When it became a Mindset Monday and then a long form, and we did it, man.
We did it.
That's something special for me.
We still here.
And it's taught us so much, man. Has it not, dude? Taught us so much, man. Like the creative journey itself has like taught us so much.
Yeah.
Agree?
Yeah. And just the show itself, like helping, I know it's helped me work through stuff at the times that would have been happening anyway, just with life. And then having the show was like, dude, we get to go do therapy on ourselves. So that was cool.
Absolutely, man. And just what I like about it a lot too is it motivates, man. It definitely gives that dopamine drive to continue learning and understanding and evolving what things mean to you, what you value about them, and most importantly, how you believe that will improve the future. I really like that part of it because it keeps you present in the here and now, engaged, right? Taking experience and being with it and learning from it and paying attention to how you're feeling about it and thinking about it and behaving about it. And then trailing that back into this whole process of just understanding. And it's great because that's what it's had me doing.
Yeah.
I'm learning in the present while at the same time really inspired by the future.
Yeah.
Because I've linked up with such a stand-up character and
Likewise.
who is really devoted, man, to not only this show, but you're just a really devoted guy. Like when you commit to something, you really trust in yourself, you know, and I think that's really a valuable quality to have is faith ultimately.
Yeah.
It's like you pursue faith courageously and lovingly and as truthfully as possible. So that's cool, man. I mean, you're on a great journey and things just keep opening up for you. It's great. And I love hearing the good things that are happening in your life, bro.
Thanks, man. Same to you. It's happening for you too. And I think this, to your point on this show, Ruben talks about in the book that I'm sure we'll talk about later, but he says as a creative, it's not just the lightning strikes of inspiration. And you got to look at yourself as a craftsperson. You're a craftsman. And like other typical craft trades, like a potter, sometimes they're not inspired to like create this great work of like pottery or artwork. But what they do is they'll go in the shop, they'll knead some clay, they'll work some clay, they'll pick some stuff up, they'll sweep the shop, and they put in the work. And for me, this show has been that for a whole year. I've told you that, and I've said that on the show. Like, this has been the most consistent creative outlet I've had, where it is like it's not work, but it's a craft.
Yeah.
And we just go in and do that weekly. Despite what we're going through, despite you're trying to get your master's and all this stuff, and it's like, dude, we just did it. We just went to the shop and we put in the craft work. So I'm thankful for that.
It's mastery ultimately.
Yeah.
And that's something that is a very creative process.
Yeah.
Achieving mastery in a skill or quality or project that brings a lot of meaning to your life and just becoming a master in that. And what that means, though, it's the approach.
Mm-hmm.
It's the approach. Yeah. And that's what this show's done for me ultimately, is it's really kept me focused on how I'm approaching life, because in the future goals and dreams and aspirations that I have, I think that's going to be a really big thing that I could help people with is, how can we find the healthiest way to respond to the demands of your life. And that's something that it's really kept me doing, because if I need to be able to speak truthfully on that, because truth is one of my core values, if I need to be able to speak truthfully on that, man, it's like you've got to make sure that everything that you're approaching is honest, like, and you are true to what you say, man. Like, you better not be talking on any show or talking to any human being, or because that matters, man. That's important. I think every time I'm talking to someone and there's some form of like healing going on, whether that be past, present, or future, like, that's important, man. So you better be approaching that like a master. And that's what mastery is, man. It's the approach. It's showing up every day, whatever that is. That could be counseling. That could be being a teacher, AV, and audio. Like, give me the exact title again, because I was thinking about
AV teacher. Yeah.
AV teacher. But the way you approach that, I bet, is like such mastery. Like, you had them doing MOP3, Anthony, the first day you had them. And that is a planning for excellence. What?
Yeah.
MOP number 3 of conscious-based performance. Kick it back to episodes 20-ish through
30. Yeah,
that whole decade right there was heavily focused on CBP, which is something we have not lost, by the way.
Yeah.
We're being agile as we pursue this project. But dude, that's mastery. Like, you could have just walked in there and threw up a PowerPoint slide and said, all right, y'all, hey, what's up? I'm Anthony Johnson. I coached for 5 years, played D1 football. I like film and I want to like be famous in it one day. So nice to meet y'all. No, you gave them value.
Yeah, man.
Brought in planning for excellence. That's mastery. That's the approach. That's paying attention to the right things.
Yeah.
That's being engaged in the present. Understanding that how it is responded to right now will ultimately bring a better future.
Yeah.
And that's really good for the human system, man. To know that what I'm doing right now will benefit me in the future. And if you could structure the map and the terrain and model it creatively in a way that just kind of guides you through your life, that's real valuable. Hold on, Colleen's calling me.
Cool.
Oh yeah, keep going. Turn mine down. All right. Good.
Yeah. No worries, bro. That's the cool thing about editing. No, I mean, to your point though about the approach and how we approach it and mastery, that is like one of the core subjects. That's why I'm so excited for you to read this book by Rick Rubin, dude, the 9-time Grammy Award winning music producer, because that's what he's talking about. The subtitle is a way of being. Everybody thinks that creativity is something that others are gifted with or blessed with, or you got to be some kind of type of unique person. But what he's saying is it's not an external act. It's like an internal awareness. It's an internal way of being that's open to the creative process in everything we do. That could be in how you approach a relationship that's on the mends, that you're trying to fix a relationship in your family or with a friend. It could be in taking a new route to work because there's traffic. Everybody is creative in some form of fashion. And what he's talking about is embodying that way of being, which I think to me sounds exactly like what you're talking about with the approach. And that's what we've done. That's what you're doing. You're doing it with your practice. I'm doing it with my practice of filmmaking, and we're doing it with this show. So it's I don't know. It's cool because we're doing it.
That makes sense to me. And going into the show, I wrote this down. I really enjoyed a recent book that I've been digesting, The Molecule of More, because again, the dopaminergic system and its circuits have just really fascinated me, because it's one of those things that brings us the most achievement, but it's also that same thing that brings us the most failure. Like, if that system is out of balance and the satisfaction is coming from the wrong object, then it can really bring addiction. It could bring a whole bunch of negative consequences, but it's also that same thing that if you learn how to utilize it, it provides you motivation and consistency and resilience. Like, that's dopamine. So I've really been trying to find a way to see how like that system can be influenced through cognition. And I wrote down before the show, mastery of experience comes from this book, Molecule of More, which is about dopamine and how it talks about that the true balance of being able to enjoy life and improve life at the same time is found when you are balanced between what they call here and now neurons, which is essentially serotonin and endorphin, and then the dopamine. And that is found when you are exactly what you're talking about right now, presently focused and attentive in the approach of your life. And the reason you're doing that is because you believe that doing such will bring forth a better future. So the dopamine is like motivated, it's activated because it's like, yo, we're going to something good. But at the same time, you're able to enjoy right now because you're like, here I am in this moment. What do I need to do to make sure that I'm responding in a way that gets me to where I need to go? All that being said, mastery of experience, it said it's all about reward, execution, success. Think about that. Reward, execution, success. So you're talking about you get reward in the approach, man. That's what you're paying attention to. You're not paying attention to all those factors that really can actually interfere with where you're going. It's ignoring those things. It's paying attention to what you really find meaningful, valuable, and brings belief into your life. And because of that, that influences feeling, thought, and then your behavior, dude. So what you're talking about is something that I've been just tearing apart for a very long time, that it's awesome how the show aligned so well, so immediately. It's the approach is what you're paying attention to. But what you're paying attention to needs a model, which is a very creative process like you were talking about. And that model begins with understanding that it's the effort. It's the taking on responsibility. It's the courage. It's the love. That's the reward itself. And then from that, you execute to achieve a successful outcome. And that's what the dopamine is just thinking success. So it gives you that motivation, that drive. It gives you those dopamine hits when you achieve something. That's mastery. Reward, execution, success. Hi, Willow girl. She misses her mom probably. Good girl.
Mommy.
She loves Colleen, bro. So, with all that being said, man, I'm really big these days on selective attention and what we're paying attention to. And I think that for you, what you're currently paying attention to is the approach to the conditions of your life, the context. And because of that, man, you're finding a lot of joy in the process, but at the same time, very motivated for what could be. And that's the middle way. That's what the Buddha was talking about. That's what Aristotle was talking about. It's the middle path, man. Mm-hmm. It's the balance between enjoying life and improving life. And that could be accomplished through here and now neuron and dopaminergic balance. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'm trying to find a way to get that really codified through the idea of cognition, mm-hmm. which is being conscious of our minds, how things are being, what things we really are paying attention to.
Yeah.
Because that's the content for consciousness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's funny you take that aspect of it because mine's way less codified, I guess, in a scientific way. Because everything that you're talking about, to me, I just keep coming back to this word of openness. Like that's when I handed you that book. That's what I said was like, this is one of the most liberating books ever. And I chose that word deliberately because it has liberated me in a way of being open. And so like the focus and I forget how you used it, the attention that you're talking about, to me, like I feel like isn't so much like a hard attention. It's an awareness.
I love it. I love this show, man.
It's like an open awareness to all of the inspiration around me. Like I feel like, again,
exactly,
because of Ruben, but also like life choices that I made and opening up to the opportunities there. Like it's every day is like a reassurance, like, hey, you made the right choice. But ultimately, I just feel open. We talked about that a little bit on the last couple episodes, but this openness to possibility and like, if you just go out amongst nature, like I know like you like to do, or you just look at life, like it's all budding with growth and inspiration and this like benevolent change and a cyclical change. And it's like everything you need is all around you if you're open to it. That's how I feel right now. And so I don't know how that translates to the codification of dopamine and that whole process, but I mean, maybe it does come back to awareness and attention, like you're saying.
I mean, so think about it in the context of meaning, okay? So let's throw this seed out there and see what germinates, all right? So let's pick meaning apart a little bit. Oh, come here. Come on, Willow girl.
She wants to go out.
So in the context of meaning, all right? Any situation can be seen as something of positive nature or negative nature, right? Okay. So in the same context of like an experience that happens to someone, all right, if can we not say that if we have a pretty solid foundational meaning that essentially guides how we experience life, it's the filter between what is coming into us and then what it means to us. Like, why is this happening? What does this mean? What is the reason for this? We need to really be able to think about those things regardless of the context that we're in. So if we can just explore an idea that's not even really codified in science, like just the idea of meaning, like, do you not think that the ideas in this book can really change the meaning that someone places on the experience of life wherever they are? Like even right now, like, yeah, we talk about these good things that are happening in our lives, but we've got a long way to go. But I find meaning in that, where that could maybe be seen as, oh my gosh, like, nah, the work or no, it's like every experience, right? Every sensory experience that is happening, it's like I put it through a meaning of, dude, like this is just something you got to work through and make sure that it happens the best way possible. And if you slip up, hey, get back up, learn from it. Okay, keep going forward. Okay, what do you do? It's like more meaningful. So to throw it back at you with like a super curveball slider like question, right? Like, is not meaning really important to the approach regardless of the context? Like it could, if one person could put a negative meaning on the same situation that another person puts a positive meaning, and it's going to be experienced differently.
Yeah.
Do you tell me, like, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that's important. I think for me, like how I can tell you, like talking about going through tough times or even good times, I have this sense of detached observer perspective on my life where, again, maybe it's because of my background, what I do and what I love, but I watch my life like a movie. And when bad stuff happens, instead of saying, oh my God, like, why is this happening? Why me or whatever, why is this happening? Whatever. I look at it like I would a movie and be like, I wonder what's going to happen in the next scene. Like, oh, this is bad, but I wonder where this is going to lead. And so again, you know me, I'm always going to bring it back to some sort of narrative approach, because I do think there's a hermeneutics of life. But for me, you can look at it as a movie. Yeah. And that's how I do. And so I guess that would be the meaning I put on the approach of life. So yeah, no, it's important. It's important. I don't think there's any, what's cool about like what I think you can help people do is that I know you're trying to develop a system, and that'll give, I don't know, it's cool. Like you're giving people a foundation, because that might look different for everybody. Like for me, it's a movie.
No, 100%.
You know what I'm saying? Like
I was just going to say how creative that process was of you developing that model.
Yeah.
That mental model of reality. Like if that is meaningful and valuable and it helps you develop positive belief, then run with it.
Yeah.
and like place that against reality. Like that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
You've got to have like a foundational map. You got to have a map, and then the terrain comes next.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I don't like how you use the seed metaphor too.
It went somewhere.
You got to gather the seeds.
So let's see. We've been in it for about 20 minutes. We've been talking about the approach, how it really boils down to what you're paying attention to, because what you're paying attention to really influences what things mean, you know, the value that comes from them, belief. Where do you think we should take this journey next as we endeavor episode 51?
I think maybe trying to embody that, like where you need to be headspace wise and spiritually. I think to embody that balance between enjoying life and improving it. That's where, because that's what we're talking about. We're talking about how can we be in a place where, right? Because that's what you texted me. Am I saying it right? How to enjoy life while improving it.
Well, it's a balance between enjoying life and improving life.
Yeah.
Just keep it simple.
Yeah.
A balance between enjoying life and improving life.
Yeah.
That's the middle way.
Yeah. And so when we talk about, a lot of that falls back on your focus in the approach, or that's kind of where you're at, or I would say like your focus in your openness and your awareness. I don't know why I keep coming back to that, but just an openness in your awareness. I do know why I'm saying that, because I think people, I know I'm saying this because of me and how I've changed recently. We get as we get older, bro, like, you know, like when you were a kid, like you took in new information and it was like a joy to have new information. And it wasn't immediately put up against pre-processed these programming that you know, inherited or past memories or whatever. Like it wasn't, it was just like, oh, cool. You know, like different person's perspective, different ideas. It was just, you absorbed it. And then as we get older, we become kind of rigidified and these kind of chained up by these beliefs, by approaches that we think are the right responses to certain situations, probably because we watched our parents respond that way as we grew up. So anyway, that's kind of why I keep coming back to this openness and awareness, because like I've been recently just kind of like, I feel like all my chains have been ripped off of me, and it's like this very peaceful, open awareness to all of the creative potentials around me in every human and every iteration of nature's daily goings about. So anyway, maybe diving deep into like how you get there in that approach, like where you're at spiritually, mentally, to be able to approach life like that.
So for me, you said earlier nature too. That's really important. You know, there was, I think it was a study. What they did is they showed people images of nature, and then they showed people images of concrete structures, and the ones that saw the images of nature scored more correctly. Yeah. So it's just loosening up a little bit and seeing the beauty really in just walking out in the morning and seeing the sunrise and just being there with it, man, and enjoying that experience and being very present and excited for what is to come that day, and having that courage to say I can take it on regardless of what it is. Yeah. Like that feels really good, you know, very open. If we're just talking on like a day-to-day, how I try to approach that. But for me too, man, I think what's happened in my life is I've just become so curious of how and why I'm experiencing things the way I am. And it's just sent me on this like exploration of just human potential and human nature and human knowledge and human understanding of like, all right, I'm this guy who lives amongst other people, and it just expands out. And I just believe that there's a certain way that we could understand how it's supposed to be done that could help us at least find joy and at the same time hope for the future. Like that's been my thing. I think that's what's been opened me up to this loose journey of just adventure and understanding. Is I'm just really here engaged with my own life and just understanding why things are the way they are and why do I think like this and why do I feel like this, but at the same time being like you, just captivated by the potential that could happen if you just find that thing that you enjoy doing and just go with it, man. Mm-hmm. That's what this is all about to me. So it's the idea of human potential and performance and what we really can do if we correctly map the terrain.
Yeah. And
I'm really on a quest on myself. Like if I can potentially do that on myself, like it's all like when you architecture, right? Like you build the model first. Well, that's what I'm really doing right now. Like I'm building the model, like in my own experience of life, in my own reality, in the hopes that I could come back and say, hey, y'all, I think I found something. Like it works for me. Let's see if it works for you. And then boom, go from there.
Yeah.
And it's that's been my, I don't know, recent looseness of just fully immersed, man, and making sure that what I'm doing is for the best good, man. Like it's simple as that. Like, is it supporting correctly? Is it nothing of like negative connotation? Like, no, man, like it's all supposed to be about how our life is being of benefit to the world around us.
Yeah.
And I think that's found through understanding ourselves first.
Yeah. That's
and
cool.
then a good relationship with ourselves first, loving things around us, like this cool dog right here.
Willow, you want to be on the show so bad.
And while at the same time, just knowing you're doing all that because one day you may be given the opportunity to share what you went through.
Yeah.
And if that could potentially bring value, well, you better be prepared. And that's the journey that I'm on, man.
That's cool. I see two things, like two approaches being set up, which is funny because we always we talk about this like we always end up at the same place, but our approaches might be different. And it comes back to that parallel path metaphor. Mm-hmm. And it's cool. It's interesting. I think that's good that on this show we can provide those two different perspectives. So let's dive into that because you kind of touched on it. Like I feel like in yours, when I listen to you, there's a very much, and it makes sense with knowing you, there's this very much this curiosity for life that inspires this striving to learn and to formalize and to have the map for the terrain like you're talking about. Mm-hmm. And that checks out to me. And I think that's right, and like, but then there's me and I'm like, and again, I go through phases, but like I'll be like that probably in the summer. Mm-hmm. Like when I get back into my Spartan Viking phase where I'm working out like crazy and I want to be striving like you. But right now where I'm at is, and again, it always happens in the winter, dude. I'm looking back at my life and it's like I'm kind of like I have these seasons in the year, like in the way that nature changes in its seasons. As it gets colder outside, I start to move more inward in a creative way. Mm-hmm. And it's not so much a striving outwardly, but more an inward creative process where I really am consuming way less. My reading has slowed down and I'm just writing more. Mm-hmm. And it always happens around this time. It's really weird. But where I'm at now is like what I was kind of getting at, which is that open awareness. And it's working because I'm just like, I'm writing every day, dude. Like every day something, I'm either creating something new and writing another script that ties into already I can't keep track of how many are in this. Like this project is way bigger. And I've said this on the show. I said, maybe it was on our other podcast that we did for Saga, but like Saga the Sage is my movie series. I don't feel like I'm writing it. I feel like I'm channeling it. And from what I've learned recently, that is true. Because check this quote out. Self-expression is not about you. So art is the greatest form of self-expression, but it's not about you. Because art is us tapping into and releasing this universal energy that we're all a part of because we're all one. Mm-hmm. And so with that understanding, I've been just kind of like, my antennas are like tuned to be really sensitive recently. And I'm just like, open it up and it's working. So it's cool that we have two approaches here. I feel like, so we can dive further into that and how we're doing that. So like for you, I look at you and I'm like, it makes sense. It checks out that you're trying to formalize this stuff. You're reading, you have this curiosity for life of how your brain works, which takes you down that neuropathological path, and understanding the dopamine hits and stuff like that. I love that neurophysiology of it all. And then like, I think about you when you're on those jogs, bro, like you've told me why you do those crazy jogs, which I admire because I can't, I'm too big. I'm trying to get smaller so I can start running more, but I ran a little bit yesterday, but
Good for you, man.
yeah, man.
Cool.
But, yeah, but like, so get
Pay
into
attention to that.
Yeah, yeah. What?
Pay attention to that. The fact that you had a nice jog yesterday, not the fact that you haven't jogged in a while.
Oh, for sure, I am. Yeah, for sure. So yeah, so maybe
See what I mean?
Yeah. So go further into your processes though, and then I'll do mine as far as the two approaches because this is good. We have two.
All right. So, and to make sure that I'm on board with the question correctly, you want me to kind of define how I approach staying open to the possibilities of reality and just life in general?
No, not even that. Yeah. Just you're because I do think you embody enjoying life while improving life.
Okay.
So, and you've touched on it in a overview summary way. Okay. I just didn't know if you could go deeper into your approach to that. Because again, we talked about at the beginning, it's all in the approach. So let's take Chris's approach.
Okay.
And then I'll hit my approach.
I've just really become fond of the idea that you can create a positive experience in regardless of the context of a life. I've just really fallen in love with that idea, and I think that's a very creative process because that requires like understanding so many different complex things, but you need something to place against that.
Yeah.
Like you need a map.
Yeah. So what's your map?
Well, my map is meaning, value, and belief. That's my map.
Yeah.
Like, and what's really interesting is like, you can ultimately like run through that. Like, come here. It's like, see this, like my love of this dog means so much and I value her, right? And I believe that life's supposed to be supported. So my attention, see how it's directed over there?
Yeah. Cause she's crying.
So the meaning, the value, and belief has really become like a map that I place against reality, which tells me what to pay attention to, because that's the book that I've recently started myself, and I'm going to take my time. I'm going to enjoy the creative process, but it's called What to Ignore and What to Pay Attention to, because I think ultimately that's the most important thing. But with so much going on out there, we need a map.
Yeah.
And then from that map, meaning, value, belief, right? Then you go into what I think is the terrain, which is feeling, thought, behavior. So like the meaning, value, and belief is the initial like filter.
Yeah.
And then the feeling, thought, behavior is how it is represented in your life.
That's awesome.
So
yeah,
that's kind of been my big thing, but with so much to pay attention to, and there just needs to be a system to like ignore.
Yeah.
Because
yes,
if there's constant stimulation, pleasure, that's what's causing a lot of this anxiety and depression and stress, man.
Right.
It's a dopamine nation. It's this constant desire for more pleasure, more desire. It's like incomplete, complete, like I've talked about before.
Yeah. So
that's why like there needs to be something that is placed against reality, because if not, right, then you're not going to be able to stay in that balance of, all right, regardless of what I'm experiencing, I can enjoy this, man. Like, I got to go drive and take my daughter gasoline because she ran out of fuel going to check on someone's dog. But to me, it's like, no, man, like that's life. Like right now, what's being asked of you is to go get fuel and go help your kid.
Right now?
There needs to, no, that's a real.
Did that happen?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know if you're being asked that right now. And you're
no. Like 2 nights ago.
Like,
it was a pitch black too. My 2 daughters were driving. You know, we live in the country, and when I went there, it was pitch black. She just had her lights on, like it was but in that moment, right? Like a lot of people could have been frustrated, or I just took reality as it was. I took the sensory experience and then placed something against it that said, if you do this, this will turn out better for you in the future. Yeah. So what that means is, hey, what a great opportunity for me to show my daughter that she can trust me, and that there's no, oh, you do it. No, go get the fuel. Right. Go to your daughter, fill the tank, give her a hug, and go home. Yeah. And that's what I did. That's good. So with all that being said, this poor Willow girl. With all that being said, man, that's really what I've been big on, is selective attention and Yeah, I think that's important because if we don't know what to pay attention to, there's just too much to pay attention to, and it becomes overwhelming, confusing, and that creates frustration. And because of that, we get sent into a spiral that could be really unhealthy for us.
Yeah, I absolutely agree, dude. And that's really cool because what you're talking about.
Come here, Knuckles. Hey, should I let her out?
Yeah.
All right, let me let her out.
Okay.
Yeah. Break time real quick.
Yeah, pause.
Yeah, this is fun.
So, because what I'm hearing you say, let me throw this at you.
All right.
You know, that's always good to throw back what I think I'm hearing you say to make sure.
Cool.
You're talking about, and I agree with this, that you have a filter that contextualizes all the content of human experience. Because what you're saying, and I agree, we got to look at ourselves as vessels. And all the time, these vessels are being filled with water, which is the content of life experience. And if you don't have, well, I think we all inherently have filters. And that's kind of what I was getting at with this openness and this awareness, that oftentimes most people, and this is what's really cool about what you do in your practice, I think what you're doing is helping people realize the negative filters that they've maybe inherited subconsciously. And so, or maybe lack thereof. Maybe they lack a filter completely, like you're saying, and it's just total flooding of information. And they have no contextualization of the content. So it's cool. It sounds like your filters are your meanings, value, belief, these maps and these terrains that you've created that help you contextualize the content of life experience. And I think that's really cool. I think that's cool that you're able to do that in your practice, because I feel like that's probably what you're going to be doing a lot, is helping people say, hey, like you're having these issues because you're putting the content of life through these filters. Let me show you these other options of filters.
Absolutely.
That would completely change the context of the content.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. And I think that's true.
Absolutely.
And I think, so like to use your verbiage then in that way, like where I'm at right now, and I think I've always been this, it's just, I'm heightening in on it, is, and you kind of know this about me already based on other shows. My filter is a confrontation with the seemingly mundane to reveal the superordinary. Like I look at everything around me, and again, it's this openness, this awareness that everything that seems mundane, meaning normal, really is a cover or a mirage of something superordinary, and I see it surrounding me constantly. And as far as a creative goes, it's helped me tremendously have that kind of filter on the information of life. It's like even a seemingly mundane conversation with my sister-in-law. Like, to give you an example, we go to my brother's graduation this weekend, and my sister-in-law, his wife, is like, she's kind of panicked because we've got like 20 people showing up. We got to make sure there's enough seats, and the stadium's filling up. You know, there's a ton of people. It's at North Texas. It was a big graduation. And so we're just talking, and she's like, man, I had a really good idea for a script the other day. And, you know, I saw this show and this episode, and I thought that'd be a really good script. I was like, I'll write that right now. I was like, that's a great idea. You know, and like, I never would, if you would have asked me a week ago, like, do you think you'll get a really cool script idea from Nicole, from Fraser's wife? I'm like, probably not. I don't know. Yeah. But just in a seemingly mundane conversation as we waited for my brother to graduate, bro, I went home and I've already got like 30 pages of that script done. I knocked out a summary. Like, it's gonna be badass, and it ties right into Saga.
And that's creativity, man.
Right.
That's taking creativity into the experience of your own life.
Yeah.
And it's done through creating those models.
Yeah. Yeah. That filter. I call it a filter, but yeah, I like how you say it's a model or a map.
The filter though too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, that's incredible.
Yeah.
30 pages.
Yeah, it's going to be done. It's intense, bro.
Because you're open.
Yeah.
And your approach is different. And you're paying attention to different things.
Yes, yes.
Like, I honestly view attention as like this little ball of light that is placed against like things of reality that come into our conscious awareness.
Maybe that's the flashlight.
I mean, I think it is, man. I was reading an article the other day, and it was talking about how consciousness is only aware of the contents of attention. And that really opened me up. Like, consciousness is literally like how the experience is happening. So if what you're paying attention to is providing the content of that experience, then you better make sure that what you're paying attention to is very meaningful, is very valuable, and brings good belief into your life.
Yeah.
Like, so that, yeah, man, like that's how I view like attention. It's like this, it's like the light that shines on the thing that
I love that. Yeah.
That we're considering, dog.
I think that's spot on, bro. And I think I wanted to dive into a belief with you too, because I've come to this realization, bro. Check this out. I think you'll agree with this. you don't have, what you believe doesn't have to be true for it to be a positive.
No. So okay. So I think that's truth though. Hold on. So I think that's where truth comes into play, because it's courage, love, and truth. I've learned that that's the ultimate model. Like if you can have the courage to engage in the day-to-day in love with what could be, then truth is what happens, and that brings about the good. So when I say truth though, bro, that's everything that we're talking about on episode 51. Like you better have been the one that came up with the meaning for your life and the value and the things that you find important, and like the quality of things. And like, you better make sure like your beliefs are yours, man. Like those weren't given to you.
Right.
And then when you can genuinely like die on your sword saying that that's what you're following, that's truth, man. So I'm sure that my beliefs are different about myself than other people's beliefs, but that's just their truth. But if you're authentic in your truth, man, and you could and those are things that you're like, dude, I'm firm. Like I've been through this creative process of like understanding things, and these are mine, and this is what I'm placing against what's coming upon me in the hopes, man, that the right thing happens. Like that's the approach. That's what I'm gonna do.
Yeah.
So.
No, I absolutely agree. Like everybody has their own truth to reality that I would hope and pray that they're choosing to express that rather than someone else's.
Absolutely. Like you can believe, like I would want a young man who's 12 years old to believe that he could make it to the NFL if that provides him motivation, encouragement, and resiliency, man. Like I would love that belief to exist in him, but at the same time though, as like leaders in this country right now, like we also need to understand though that what that young man is valuing in the here and now, and what the here and now and like the responsibilities of the day-to-day mean to him is just as important as that belief. So that's that middle way, that's that balance, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, your belief can be something that is only true to you, but if it provides you what you need, but at the same time, man, like you're living true to the day-to-day, you're not living in a fantasy.
Right.
It's not an illusion. Like you're here in this, like you are engaged and attentive in life.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I don't think that like a belief needs to be sound like, I'll say, dude, your belief in you, I guarantee, is like different than the belief I had. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it is subjective.
Yeah.
And that's very creative.
Yes.
Is creating the subjective in a way that is good for you and healthy.
Yeah. Like to give you an example for me, like I was driving out to Edna, Texas with Haley, my fiance, to go to her family Christmas. Mm-hmm. And we're passing by all this country and all these fields. I inherently believe, because of who I am, that there might be hiding under those fields layers and layers of lost ancient architecture that, you know, are evidence of an advanced civilization that once lived in America. And I'm driving by it. I'm like, yeah, dude, I wish I had a bulldozer and I could just start digging and stuff. Like, that's just one minute example of my belief that there is something super ordinary hidden amidst the mundane around me.
Right.
And that provides immense value for me. And I've always believed that, but I've never been able to verbalize it.
Yeah.
That's been my approach forever. When we talked about imagination, when we talked about the hermeneutics of life, like that's what I was trying to get at, was that approach to life that I have. And it helps me immensely as a creative, and I'm really tapping into it. But what I'm hearing you say is, if it doesn't matter if the belief is true, like it might not be true that there's hidden civilizations underneath the ground of America. But so it's not necessarily per se about the belief, but about the value it brings in your life, so that, you know, like you said with your analogy with the kid that believes he's going to go to the NFL. Well, it's not about that. It's about how does it affect him here in the day-to-day, and the value that it provides him, I guess, in his existence on the day-to-day life, right? And this gets back to our balancing between enjoying life and improving it.
Can we enter the terrain then?
Yeah.
Because we just mapped it out. That's what we did on episode 51, for the record, y'all. That's the map. The meaning, value, and belief is what I believe to be the map, man.
Yeah.
That you create your life against. But then the terrain is feeling, thought, and behavior. So let's use your field of Ancient Dreams as an example. Acres of Diamonds, right, which is actually a very famous book. The premise of the book itself was that right where you are, you may be standing on acres of diamonds. You've just got to put in the work to dig and find it.
That's cool.
So anyhow, with all that being said, that belief, okay, right? So you filtered unconscious, went through meaning, because that's what it does. The meaning is what guides and governs the unconscious and filters it through that, which then brings you to value. Okay, what do I find important about life that is going to be important to the next belief that I have about what I need to do? And then that leads into a feeling. So that was an example, not necessarily perfectly for yours, but that belief, let's just say that there's that ancient architecture and so forth. How do you feel when you believe that?
Like I'm tapped into the great mystery of life.
Okay.
And I'm like on the case.
So you feel encouraged.
Yeah, inspired, encouraged.
Positive feelings.
Yep.
That's good. Okay, that means we're on to something. Because belief is the brain. The brain's belief about the state of the body is what leads to an emotion, is what leads to a feeling, or affect. So that's why belief is important. If that puts you into an inspired state because your brain is saying, yeah, this is good, this is fun, cool, you feel good. What kind of thoughts come from after you have that feeling of just inspiration, encouragement? Like, what are the thoughts? And don't just think about the project itself, like just the thoughts that you're having.
A lot of like what if and what could be.
Okay.
Like a lot of positive potential, like thoughts on what could be, what would happen, what would that do to the story of us as mankind. And
you look over at Haley and the next conversation you may have, are you going to pay attention?
Yeah, for sure. To the seat, like to the hidden, I don't know, there's like golden nuggets hidden beneath the mundane, which is the dirt of just normal everyday conversation. So yeah.
Because you think it's important, right?
Right.
Which kind of butts back up against your values, which bounces back.
Yeah.
Through belief and then back into, well, let's use the conversation. So your behavior in that same moment. What type of, you felt inspired. You were thinking great things about the possibility of life. What do you think your behavior is going to be when someone cuts you off?
Less angry, a little bit more. I can say that I know that it makes me more open, like to the idea that that's just a subjective person living their life. Like they got their own things going on.
A little bit less reactive.
Yeah.
A little bit more conscious.
A little bit more understanding.
Aware.
Yeah. Yeah. Aware for sure.
Because it's clear that out there is just a direct reflection of what's going on within here. Mm-hmm. Can we kind of land at that point?
Yep.
So
yeah,
that's how it has to funnel through that meaning, value, belief, leads to feeling a certain way, thinking a certain way, and behaving a certain way.
Yeah.
And what a creative process to enjoy the here and now while at the same time being inspired about what the future could bring.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I think if people aren't aware of the filters that they're running the content of life through, that it can get them into a lot of trouble. And I think that's ultimately what you're getting at, is like helping them have.
Well, this is like, it's a structure, man.
Yeah.
Like you got to think about it like that.
Yeah.
Like it's a structure. Like, and it doesn't matter. Like, don't think that your structure needs to be like anybody else's. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like, an idea that always pops back into me is like physical health. Like, just because someone lifts more than you doesn't mean that it can't be a very meaningful and valuable experience when you go to the gym, you know?
For sure.
Like, I'm a smaller dude. And like when I work out by myself, like I'm not lifting heavy weight. But like for me, the experience is all about like, yo, like you're pushing yourself, you're challenging yourself.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep, for sure.
So that's kind of one that I always lean back up against. It's like, it doesn't, there's no need to compare like other people's experience to yours.
Yeah.
Like take yours and like make something of it.
Yeah, exactly.
And the way we do that though requires a whole bunch of exploration into like how we could correctly experience, man. Like the conditions of our life, the demands is what I like to consider it.
Yeah. I've seen this happen. I think to that point, like what's working out, it's a great example. Everybody's going to have their own subjective opinion on what they think is the best approach to that.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen that cripple or anger others. So like people, well, let's just say someone decides to pick up lifting or working out, and they're going along their journey and they've just started, and they're fighting to find encouragement, to do it for whatever reason. And you've got all these voices telling them, well, you should do this and you should do this. And it pisses them off. And they're like, well, why does everybody got to share their opinion? And I think this is something that's helped me. I want to hear how you say this, or what this makes you feel. Something that I've learned recently too with the creative process is that the work is not a representation of you. So stay with me on this, because I'm going to tie it back into our lives and the creative process of our lives. A lot of times artists and creatives are afraid to share because of the fear of critique, because they invest so much of their self-identity and self-worth into the project. I've been there before, where it's like, well, this is the greatest thing ever that I'm ever going to create, this script, like 5 years ago, whatever. And, oh my God, if someone has a negative response on that or a different opinion on how that should go, it'll cripple me. And it stops a lot of creative people from doing it in the first place. But what's helped me is this understanding that let's lower the stakes and understand that this is just one project in hopefully a line of hundreds, if not thousands of projects that you'll eventually do. And it's one stepping stone, and it's only one reflection of you from that moment. And really, it's not even you, it's the work. The work stands on its own. Someone can say something bad about the work and it not be a reflection of you. And because and I know this, I've written scripts and I've come back days later and looked at it a completely different light. I'm like, oh, this isn't how I viewed it to even a day ago. Or a year later, I'll look at something and be like, oh, this was not as good as I thought it was, And it's like, but if I had heard that when I wrote it, it would have crippled me. So in relation to our lives and creating the lives that we want, I don't know, is it safe to say that there maybe needs to be a little bit of detachment from that idea? Like, hey, I'm setting up the map and the terrain and the formulation to approach life in a creative way. But understanding it, is unhealthy to detach yourself from that as a project and be like, if people have opinions on, I can understand that that's just their subjective opinions. Everybody has their own approach to this, and I can take it kind of in, again, another filter and say, okay, I can run with what I want to, or I can leave behind what I want, and understand that there's this healthy detachment from the project of life. You get what I'm saying?
I think that's perfectly aligns with the book that I've started.
Okay, cool.
What to ignore and what to pay attention to.
Yeah.
That's what it boils down to. Like, what are you shining the light on?
Yeah.
Are you shining the light on other people's opinions?
Yeah.
Or are you shining a light on the creative process, itself, and the exploration that it takes to undergo it?
Yeah.
And like how you are and how you're being within the whole process. And I think that light is everything we've been talking about tonight, man. It's what everything means to us and what we value about it and what we believe, and what we believe. If the light is shining and we're paying attention to all the naysayers and all the ones telling us that it's not going to happen, that's going to give us a filter that is going to be unhealthy.
Right.
It's not going to work, man. It's not going to make sense. So that's why we've got to, there's just so much, life in general is just so complicated. It's so confusing at times. There's so many different things happening at once. We've got to admit that. There's just a lot going on all the time. So we need to focus in and pay attention to things that are good for us. And that needs to be done in a way that, man, we get creative about how that needs to happen in our life.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like you talk about, super motivated, super driven about what could be. But you've got to be here and now. You've got to be operating here.
Yeah.
You've got to be performing here. There's got to be self-directed thought and behavior, man. Just get very, very, very attentive on what you find important and what you're paying attention to, and ignore the rest. But make sure that that's coming from a place of truth and authenticity. It's you. It's coming from something that you created for yourself.
Yeah.
This is my journey. This is my life. This is my heroic pursuit. I believe in this, man, and I'm willing to die on that sword. Yeah. That's mandatory, dude.
Right.
And at that point, man, just pay attention to things that activate that feeling within you and go.
Yeah.
And go and block out the rest.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I'm going to be talking about a lot in that book is like just blocking what we need to block out and what we need to pay attention to.
Yeah.
Based off research and my own experience and case studies and stuff like that. Like I'm really excited about it. I'm going to take my time, but yeah.
Anytime.
So that's where,
like that.
That's my answer to your question, man, is just like, make sure you're paying attention to the right stuff and ignore the rest.
Yeah. So my next,
and that's not like a weak thing either. It's not passive.
No.
Like when I say ignore, you're just like, nah, like I'm not going to watch that, or I'm not going to pay attention to that. But better pay, like if don't ignore things that can hurt you, that can maybe help you.
Yeah. Yeah. That finding that balance. Well, my next question is then, because you talked about how you need to be able to do that, but still balance the everyday and doing what you need to do now. So I'd like to hear how your approach to that is done, because I have my own that I can share after. But like you're saying, focusing on what you need to focus on to create the future that you want and to improve your life, but also doing the everyday here and now. That might be a good thing to dive into really quickly.
Courage, man. That's it. Just like fortifying a character structure that is courage, that like experiences courage, that just takes on whatever that day brings in the most supportive and devoted and like intentional way possible, and like not being mindless in interactions and being with the experience. Like that takes a lot of courage, man. And the courage to take responsibility, because I do think that every moment is a responsibility. Every moment is a responsibility, man. And when we falter, man, when we act out of frustration or we express anger negatively, like we've lost that moment, man. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So every moment counts, man. Every moment's meaningful. And that's just something that I just think is incredibly important to think about I think that ties close to your idea of just finding I think what you do is you like find just the beauty and the potential in everyday things. And that's really creative, man. And that's a very dopaminergic thing too, because creativity is one of the best ways to healthily utilize dopamine.
Yeah.
Is the creative process itself, because it's the connection of brain and hand.
Yeah.
Which is how I like to think about it. That's like the ultimate balance. It's like that's what we're doing with this show. It's like our brain and hand. Yeah. But when I say hand, it's just bringing it into the external.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that kind of aligns with that. You know, it's just finding the potential in the moment. And then I think that also aligns really well with just knowing that every moment matters, dude.
Yeah. That's good.
And that takes a lot of courage, dog, to take that on. I think that's what Jesus Christ carried the cross, and we hear of all these sacrificial things is, man, like devotion to, living a responsible life that benefits yourself and the people around you and the community. It's a burden. But I think when we tap into the idea that burden is going to be valuable to the future experience, then it gives that drive of being today in the here and now, while at the same time being focused that there's more out there than what we think, and there's more to us than what there currently is, and we could be that if we just keep moving forward in the best way possible.
Yeah.
It's just becoming all that you can be, in a sense, is really a really valuable way, I think, of living in current modern societies, blocking out all the stuff that isn't good for us and just devoting yourself to just fortifying something, man.
Yeah.
It's like a solid structure.
Yeah. I like how you said the courage to take on the responsibility of each moment, because that's how, for me, and my approach to that, in getting the everyday stuff that I need to get done, but also having the attention and the awareness and the focus of improving life and my dreams and ambitions. I split these things, and I'd like to hear your opinion on this. I split these things into like two categories in every day. So I wake up and I think my first thought is, how am I going to work on my craft today, which is my dream, and create some way, some fashion. I ask myself that question, and it may not be an answer there, but it presents itself throughout the rest of the day, or it might present itself right then. But then I also have another category, which is like, I don't know how you would categorize it, but it's like a timely responsibility. It's like, what do I have to get done today? Where do I do that? When? And then once I've gotten done what I need to get done today, because there's like a timestamp on it. Like those are my day-to-day responsibilities. Then I have an outer, more, I guess, porous, bigger responsibility to the craft. And then that's where that can come in, and I give that time to it. Now, sometimes those are in conflict. So I'll enter a period like yesterday where I thought I had time to work on my craft, and I was on my laptop wanting to type and write. And Haley wanted to get chores done, and she's like, "Hey, can you do this? Can you do this?" And I started to get a little frustrated, and I realized, you know what? No, these are things that actually do have a timestamp on them, regardless of if I decided that timestamp was a day. And so, and I want to make her happy, so I shifted focus and was able to get done what I needed to get done then on that timestamp, and then go back to the responsibility of the craft.
What a healthy way of thinking, man.
Thanks.
Yeah. Very psychologically healthy.
Cool.
Like I was running through the context, man. Like I was seeing exactly how things were in that whole experience, and yeah, that seemed really healthy.
Cool.
Because that's tapping into both, man. Like that's those here and now neurons and the dopamine, dude.
Yeah.
Like that's super healthy.
Yeah.
Living in the day to day. Like that's boom, you're activating all that good stuff in that moment, but at the same time you have that bigger thing, and then you're able to shift your attention. Like that was solid, dude. I thought that was very well.
Okay, cool.
I thought that was very well done.
It's been good for me. I mean, like even with going to school now and the new job, like as I'm walking to the building, you know, I take my time to just kind of wake up through the drive. It's less time now, but you know, whatever. Drink my coffee, and then as I walk up to the building, I focus on my breathing. I do your little imagery with the circle, breathing in, inhaling, and do that. And I try to get in as much sun as I can in the walk.
Cool.
And then I ask myself that. I say, when are you going to work on your craft today? And again, the answer might not pop up then, or it might be like, hey, today's an A day. You've got 2-hour break on third period because it's lunch. And it's like, okay, cool. I'll have time to work on my craft then. And I can. It's almost like a reassurance. It's like, because again, you know where I'm coming from. Like with when I was in the last field of my profession with coaching, I didn't feel like I had any time to work on my craft, and it would eat at me, and it would like torture me. And so just being able to say, hey, you're going to get an hour or two later is like, whew,
it's very healthy.
Yes,
it's very healthy. In the book,
for my soul.
Yeah, in the book that I was talking about earlier, Molecule of More, like it gives an example of a stock trader who all day long is living in the abstract world, looking at data sheets and numbers and all things along those lines, and began to paint again. And just the creative act of painting after work really improved his overall health.
Yeah, I believe it.
And because he was suffering from depression, and the depression decreased because of just the simple fact of having something creative to think about.
Yeah.
Which gives a perception of the future of, yeah, there's more, but at the same time, though, I need to make sure I do right now that allows for that more to happen.
Yeah.
And that's that balance that you found.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
like
good.
Right now I got to go help with chores, dude, because I know that my relationship with my future spouse is more important than this one page that I could potentially wrap up right here.
Right.
And then when the moment comes, like, do your thing.
Yeah.
Create. Understand things. Grow yourself. But then when reality calls, go answer.
Yeah.
Take the sense of your experience and make something meaningful and valuable of it.
Yeah.
Because that'll empower your beliefs, and then you'll feel better, you'll think better, and you'll behave better.
Yeah. And what's cool about it for me is it's not so much a discouragement to say, hey, you're being pulled away from your creative endeavors or your creative responsibilities to go do something in the mundane, like timetable needs to get done today. Because now, again, coming back to this openness and this awareness, I've realized, like the conversation with my sister-in-law, I had to go to a family function on Saturday. I'm going to lose my whole Saturday. It used to really frustrate me. Like, oh man, my weekends, because of coaching stuff. Now I'm like, I wonder what will pop up in conversation that will like inspire a story.
Yeah.
Or I wonder, like, I might learn a new character. Like I might meet someone that's so intriguing that inspires a character in me. Now I'm approaching it, and I bring notebooks with me. Like I brought a notebook with me to family Christmas on Saturday, and just in case an idea hit, like write it down really quickly. So how
can I experience this in an enjoyable way? Like that's creative, dude. Yeah. That's exactly like that's like you talking about your approach. That's kind of my approach. Like
Yeah.
Regardless of what I'm doing, like, how can I find like some like sense of satisfaction in what's happening here?
That's good.
Like,
yeah,
regardless of what it is.
I see now. Yeah, because of your approach again, you have this striving to figure out what makes us tick and why we tick the way we do. And
so for example, right, like this poor dog. I'm sorry. See, she's experiencing this differently than us right now. You know, come here, girl. I thought her mom was home.
No, I thought I heard your wife.
Is mom not here? Let's go see if she's here. But at my graduation on Friday, right? Like, to me, that was a very, thanks, man. To me, that was a very meaningful thing. It's very valuable. The fact that I was in that experience made me believe really well about things.
It's cool.
And I felt good and I thought good and all that, boom, running through that thing again. But I share that with some of the people around me weren't, like, a lot of complaining going on.
Really?
Because of, like, you had to stand there for a while and then, we're graduate students. We shouldn't have to wait for the undergrads. Like, what? Why not just enjoy? Like, I didn't. But again,
right? Hey,
that I don't participate in that. And I approached it in a way, like when I was sitting in my seat, man, I was firm. My feet were planted, man. I was present. I was like, yo, you did this, man. Like, when I went up there and they're hooding me, and Dr. McClendon, man, love that guy. He helped me so much get through that 3-year process, man. Like, he was about to do it, and I was like, hey, can we hug? I'm talking like on the stage, man, Bell County Expo. He's like, yeah. So, like, I don't know if that was like the first time ever, right before a hooding of a master's degree, that
that's cool.
The student and the professor hugged. But, yeah, man, I just took it. I knew that my daughters were in there. Like, you see what I'm saying here? Yep. So, like, where one person just kind of approached the situation in the wrong way and wasn't really seeing it as like an opportunity to like master the conditions. Like, why not just take this thing on, see it for like, dude, I'm just thinking back. I literally was like firm, dude. And I just kept fixing myself. Like, I was a very proud moment, man. So yeah, I don't know, sharing that idea on the context of like the same thing, but a lot of complaining and whining going on. Or do you want to approach this in like what you're talking about? And hey, man, like, what could come of this if I just went my best about it?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's good. That's good, man. Yeah, I think I'm getting better at it. I'm not perfect.
Oh, neither am I, by the way.
I mean, yeah. So, but again, the recent change in me and realizing that the universe is going to provide all the answers, and it is, to me, as far as like everything you need if you're just open and your antenna are tuned sensitively enough. Mm-hmm. It's all there. It's just, are you not even looking for it? Are you open to it?
Yeah.
You know, because I used to think it was a looking, but it's more, to me now, it's more an openness. Like, do you see it? Do you see it? Because it's always there. Mm-hmm. And so it's helped me approach those situations like you're talking about, where I don't have to be the person that's complaining about that. Yep. I mean, I was at a graduation too, and I saw a bunch of opportunity where, you know, there's a lot of sitting around and waiting.
Absolutely.
And all the names, and you know, you guys had undergrads with you. That's crazy too. But I just, dude, I kept what was important, which was celebrating my brother. He had a beaming smile on his face the whole time. I was like, I just kept looking at him. I was like, oh, he's enjoying it, so we're good.
There you go.
So
meaningful, and that's what you were paying attention to, and it was probably a positive experience because of that.
Yep, exactly.
Nice, bro.
So that's
very
good.
nice.
That's good, man. We covered a lot of ground.
Yeah, that was a good show, man. That was fun. What are your thoughts, man? Take us into a quick little summary. Where'd we travel today?
Yeah, we didn't state it clearly at the beginning, but we initially set out to talk about this balance between enjoying life and improving it. Mm-hmm. And it led us at first to the approach and the difference in approaches that we have, but ultimately ending up in the same place, which is always really cool. So, you know, you have that more striving, curiosity for life approach, which I do too, but just in a different way. Yours, you're able to, and then that led us into how you approach it, which is you have a map of meaning, values, and beliefs, and that leads to the terrain. And I saw that as a filter, and how we all have filters for the content that comes in through life, and how we contextualize that. So we talked a little bit about filters, and then we talked about really settling into that balance between enjoying and improving life at the same time, which really comes down to responsibility for day-to-day stuff and how we balance that with improving it, but getting done what we need to get done today.
Absolutely. So. And then living in the day-to-day with courage, while
Yeah.
being in love with what could be.
Yeah.
If you truthfully did that,
Yeah.
because we believe that that brings about the good.
Mm-hmm.
And I liked how we talked a lot about creativity and structuring a way of life, really. And we're talking thoughts and assumptions and beliefs. Like, we can go on when it comes to the cognition aspect of it, but that's a very creative process.
Yep.
To really, understand those things in a way that brings value to your life. Like that is a really creative process. Like, if you are struggling and you're like, nah, no way, dude. Like, these guys are way too positive for me. Like, I can't live like this. Like, it took years of creativity to get to this point.
Yeah.
And imagination, because that's really what it is, man. Creativity is going into the imagination and saying, is there a different way that I could be thinking about this or feeling about this?
Yeah.
And then we've found ways of explaining that.
Yep.
And so ultimately, that's a big one that I think I really enjoyed about tonight, man, is all of us are creative, man. We're all creating.
Yeah.
At every moment, dude.
Yep.
At every single moment, like, we have an influence on how we experience the content that Anthony was talking about, and how we contextualize it, man.
Yes.
And I think the creative process is developing a sound meaning, value, belief structure for your life, and that's
Yep.
the map.
Yeah.
And then from that, the terrain of feeling, thought, and behavior is mapped out in a way that gets you to where you're going.
Yeah.
And that's that balance, I think.
Yeah.
That's that balance of enjoying the here and now today, because our feeling, our thought, and behavior is in alignment with where we're going.
Yep.
And for that reason, man, it's not about feeling good all the time, man. It's just about having the courage to do it.
Yeah.
And that's how I hope what episode 51 really helps someone with, is just have the courage to go out there and create a different way of experiencing things and just see what happens, man.
Yeah.
And if the map that we provided, or if the model that we provided, actually, we'll call it the what I like to call the mental model of cognition, the meaning, value, belief, feeling, thought, behavior, if that helps you out, like you give it a shot.
Mm-hmm.
Give it a shot, man. Mm-hmm. So that's very creative, though. That's a very, very, very creative process, what we're talking about right now.
Yeah. I wanted to hammer home on
It's
that
a way
point.
of being in the world.
Yeah. Yes. Well, because you're creating that experience whether you know it or not, because fundamentally our sense data is limited. Like, if you close your eyes and you just take in everything that you take in on a normal day-to-day, every second, what you hear, smell, see, touch is all data that goes into your mind, very limited data, by the way, of reality. And then you're creating an emotional, a spiritual response approach to that data every day, every second. So what's really cool about what we're trying to do, and specifically you, and talking about that, is that if you just were cognizant of the creative process that you're already partaking in, you'd realize you are a creative. Everybody fundamentally is creating the reality around them.
Absolutely.
To a sense. So we're just trying to encourage you to do that, cognizant of it.
Yes.
Be cognizant of the fact that you're creative.
Absolutely.
And then it's also in those minute experiences of, like I said at the beginning of the show, it's in the conversations we have to fix a relationship with a friend or a family member. It's in taking different routes to work to avoid traffic. It's in even your approach to traffic. You get stuck in a traffic jam, you can create the response to that.
Absolutely.
and how you respond to that. So there's all these little micro opportunities to be creative, besides the fact that you're already a creative in your experience of reality right now, every second. So
what I'm trying to do with the ultimate pill is find a way to understand cognition and neurophysiology, bro, in a way that, oh man, episode 51, what you've brought out of us tonight is incredible. Oh man. How should I say it, bro? To understand that with cognition and neurophysiology, we can influence our state of consciousness and as we delve deeper into that idea, we understand that reality is just a projection of our consciousness. And if we can find a way to get to a point to where that awareness allows us to start paying attention to things in our life that bring forth the best, then more and more we believe that for that to be true. Because I think everything we talked about tonight is just that. Like, life is happening. Life is going to demand of us, but it is our state of consciousness and what we project back out onto that experience will exactly determine whether it's of support to us or not.
Yeah.
And I wanted to close episode 51 out with that, is we're trying to find a way to influence consciousness, because that is a direct reflection, a direct projection of how we experience our life.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm hoping we can accomplish in the long run with the ultimate pill. We're going to get to that point to where you understand that I have a locus of control over how I experience this. Mm-hmm. That's meaningful to me, bro. Very meaningful to me.
Agreed. I think we are.
Cool.
We are doing that. Let us know. Let us know if we helped you do that.
Man, I'm in a daze right now. I'm coming back.
That was good.
Yeah, I was deep in that one because I had to make sure my attention was correct, because I had Willow, so I was really paying attention to her, but then at the same time paying attention to the show.
Yeah.
Applying all those things we talk about, stress management, what this means. I'm telling you, we're doing it all, y'all. We're doing it right alongside you. All these things that we're talking about, we're doing our best to test them in our own lives.
Yeah.
So, yeah, man. Reality is a direct reflection and projection of our consciousness. So let's just make sure that we nurture that and allow it to be a screen that is as clear and natural as possible. Yeah, man.
Amen.
And a Willow girl.
Willow
that takes being here and now while seeing into the future. Let's close it out, dog. Colleen's home.
All right, man.
Ultimate Pill 51. Love y'all. Thanks for
Appreciate
if you stuck to the end, man. Thanks for hanging out. This one was really fun.
Appreciate y'all.
Appreciate y'all. Love. One love.